the free HTML course that you're about to watch is just a small part of our full front-end web development masterclass. So if you also want to learn CSS, Bootstrap, Font Awesome, Animate.css, and all of that, and also gain your certificate and become a certified front-end web developer, you can enjoy the fast link in the description and get your access to our full front-end web development bootcamp at a fraction of cost. Also mentionable that this course is brought up to you by the Takeoff College, the smartest alternative currently available to the traditional education. With all that being said, I'm so excited, so let's get started. Hey everyone, we are getting started with HTML as the most essential brick to the wall of programming, especially web development and web programming. So, what is HTML? HTML, as sounds like an abbreviation, is an abbreviation. An abbreviation for Hypertext Markup Language, which is HTML. As Wikipedia says, it is a markup language. And I'd like to talk about that as the language to web. So any kind of web-based program, anything related to web, wherever it is, either it's on desktop, televisions, mobile devices, laptops, whatever, anything that has any connection to web has HTML somehow included, or one kind of a markup language included, which in most cases is HTML. So HTML, as I said, can be referred to as the language of web, the language of browsers. And that is what we are going to learn in this full course. So HTML always comes with cascading style sheet, which is abbreviated to CSS, which we do have a separate course for. And the best case scenario is that you first start with HTML course, so the course that we are currently in, and afterwards you move to the CSS course, because that is a complementary tool to HTML. In many cases, you hear that a lot, that people say HTML is not a programming language. And we can say they are right and they are correct, because, as I said, HTML is a language to talk with web and to talk with computers, to talk with browsers. But in HTML, there's no analysis and there is no operation of data or something like that happening. We only have a language of speaking to the computer, and that's why people don't call it programming language in a lot of cases, because programming languages have functions, they have different kinds of commands, and they do something. HTML doesn't do anything like the other languages do. HTML is just about communicating correctly with the web. So let's get into it without no further complicated explanations. To get started with HTML, which is the exact thing that we are going to do right now, we need text editors. When I say text editors, don't think of anything complicated or, something like that. In 99% of the scenario, you already have one or a couple installed on your computer. Actually, the Notepad software we have in Windows, as it mentions here, it is a text editor, Text editors are not anything special or complicated. Actually, vice versa. Text editors are just softwares that we can access to the codes we write or the codes we have in any kind of a web page through them. But in most cases, as I said, Notepad is a text editor, which we all have and we all use. But in terms of programming and coding in HTML, we do not use it that often. And the reason to that is because Notepad is not specially designed for coding. And what do I mean by that? When you're coding with Notepad, you need to type every single letter of the code by yourself. While in most cases, that's not the case. The case is that we will get help from the software that we are using. It will actually read our brains through the parts that we write, and it will complete the code for us. Another expectation we have from text editors is debugging and giving us feedback, at least small ones, on how we are wrong in a couple lines of our code and things like that. So these are the reasons that turn us into other text editors rather than the simple Notepad we have. And we have a couple of them listed over here, as you see. This list goes to infinity, actually. I personally have worked with many of them. We have the most popular ones. We have Notepad++, as you see. We have... I can't see any of the familiar ones here. We have, for example, Atom. I don't see that. I don't know what. Here it is. We have Atom. We have many of them, actually. We have Sublime Text. If I can find it over here. Sublime Text, yes, as you see. There's many of them. We have Brackets and many other ones. And a lot of them are free, a lot of them are not. And they have different looks. They look differently, these text editors. They have different options and different tools for specific kinds of programming and coding. And there are differences to them, actually. Not many and not much, but there are differences to them. And the best one, in my opinion, in my very, very personal opinion, the best one that I love and I always use is Visual Studio Code, which is this blue software. Don't misunderstand it with Visual Studio, because that is, the purple one, That is a completely separate software by Microsoft, but this Visual Studio Code thing is the free option we have. It is very quick. It has many features, and I just personally love it, And to get it, as I said, it's free, so you don't need to pay anything for it. You just need to go to code.visualstudio.com and download it for whatever operating system you're using. The point is, I do not have it installed right now, so it's a very cool one. We are going to do it with each other. So when we are done downloading it, as you see, we have an exe file over here, .exe. All we need to do is to open it up. And as you see, this is Microsoft Visual Studio Code setup. I accept the agreement and click on Next. This is the address that it will be installed to. Next. Create program shortcut. Okay, next. Create a desktop icon. Next. And install. And it will take a couple minutes to complete the installation. I leave it checked, launch Visual Studio Code, and click Finish. This was it, as easy as that. Now we have Visual Studio Code installed, and we can get started with our first HTML project. In order to do that, in order to get started with your first ever HTML page, you will need to do a couple steps. There are ways to creating an HTML page. First one is by right-clicking, new text document. And for this purpose and for this way of creation, you need your file extensions on. So you need to see this .txt over here. And you can rename it to, for example, index.html. Are you sure you want to change it? Yes. And as you see, this is what we get, which is an empty web page. And now we can open it up inside our Visual Studio Code by dragging it and open. So that's it. As you see, now we have index.html opened up. Another way to do that is to click on Open Folder over here, come to Desktop, create a new folder for our project. So this is my first project. Or we can call it Hello World. This is a classic way to start off with programming. And I choose it and click Select Folder. And over here, by clicking, yes, I trust the authors. And over here, by clicking this icon, this new file icon, we will be able to name our file index.html and have the exact same thing over here. So now we have a web page. In order to see that, we need to open it up with a browser, which I'm using Google Chrome for right now. And as you see, this is our web page, an empty one. So whatever I write over here, for example, I say, hello world. And I reload this, and as you see, I don't see any changes, because this is a very important thing to keep in mind. Every single change that you make to any kind of a project is that whenever you change the code, you need to save the file in order to be able to see the changes that it creates. And as you see, we have Hello World written over here. As easy as that. Beforehand, let me go to preferences and try to change the font size for you guys, because I think it's very small. You know what I'm saying? Settings. I say font, yes, and I change it to 24. I think will be okay. Yes, or even bigger, like 26. Okay, so this is it. As you see, we just wrote something, we just typed something over here, and we saw it in the browser. But this is not going to be this easy forever. So what we are going to do in the continue to our work is that we need to behave in a frame. And that is why HTML exists. This is not actually this easy, as I said. And we have a frame. But the question that comes to mind at first is that when we can do it like this, so you can easily type anything over here, type anything over here, and save, and see the changes over here, why do we need to follow that frame? And that is a very brilliant question. But there's also a very logical answer to that question. Because in real world projects and in websites, etc., this hello world may be very different with this type anything over here. And we need to specify those differences. Wherever we have an image, we need to specify what kind of an image it is and what is this image talking about. Whenever we have a link, we need to specify the URL to that link, the purpose to that link, and the anchor to that link. Whenever we have headings, we need to specify what they are, how important they are. Whenever we have a quotation, we need to specify that. Whenever we have a list, we need to specify that. And all of that make this kind of typing impossible when we are working on real world projects. And that's why HTML is created. That's why we have frames in web. In order to get started, you need to be familiar with a couple concepts. The first one is tags. So what are tags? HTML is basically based on these tags we're talking about. So these tags are those frames that I just mentioned. And we have two major kinds of tags. One of them are like this. You open them up with this little sign we have, and you type the tag name inside of that. You close it like this, and it also gets a closing tag. So this is called the opening and this is called the closing. And this is the structure to the tags we have. And inside of these tags, we may have other tags, or we may have a couple contents, settings, etc. So this is the first look that we can get in HTML from a tag. And we also have tags without closing. So how they work is that they actually look like this. So they are themselves and themselves only, because they do not need to contain anything between them, and they cannot contain anything between them, and that's impossible for them. So they do not have an opening or closing. They are only and only themselves. So these are the two main kinds of tags that we have. A couple of tags that we mentioned further in the course are like this, and some of them are like this. And we are going to mention them whenever we are working with them. So this is what we call a tag. And this is how HTML is based on. Another important thing to be familiar with is attributes. What are attributes? Inside the tags that we have, we may have certain settings for each one. And we do those settings with the attributes they offer us. Attributes is like this. So you have the attribute name or whatever. You have an equal. What I'm teaching you is called the structure. So you're learning the foundations of how HTML basically works. So you have this attribute name over here. You have equal and you have two double quotations which you can use to include the data inside that. We also can have attributes for these kind of tags, so they will be like this. Attribute equals to data. We never ever have attributes for the closing parts of these kinds of tags. This is another important thing to keep in mind. So whenever we're talking about attributes, we mean something like this or something like this. That's it. Another thing to mention is that this kind of single isolated tag that you see doesn't always necessarily have to have this backslash, or I think it's slash, I believe. Whatever it is, we don't always need that, especially in HTML5. We can just not mention that and everything will work correctly. But the point here is that we still do not need and do not have to use any closing for them. That's also important. And that's it. Let's get started with the default tags that every single HTML page and every single web page in the world has to include. If you type HTML5 like this in VS Code, in Visual Studio Code, you will get this entire code written for you over here. These are the default tags. These are the base tags, the foundation tags of an HTML page. So first of all, over here, as you see, we have this doctype HTML thing, which introduces our HTML page to the browser. So it says that this page is written in HTML and is necessary, by the way. And below that, as you see, we have a tag called HTML. HTML does contain a closing, as you see, and does contain an attribute of lang, which is the language that our page is on, and as you see, is set to EN or English. Inside HTML, as you see, we have two other important tags, which are head and body. We must, in every single project that we have, in every single web page that we're working on, we must include all of these. So keep that in mind. We have head, which is for the settings to our web page, and we have body, which is the content of our web page. So here, as you see, in head, we have a couple meta tags, which are for settings, as I said, of our web page. We have a title, which I can change to Hello World. And if I save, as you see here, we have index.html, but if I reload it, here will change to Hello World. Very cool one, right? Yes. What else do we have? We have body, and inside body, we are just getting started with the HTML tags that we have for our web page's content. Because I mentioned it earlier, I would love to get started with a heading. And how we do that is by including an H1 tag inside our web page. So H1 is heading 1, is the most important title in our web page, you know. And I type hello world over here, save, come back, and this is what we get, as you see. Important to mention, as you see, I always come to this file and click save. We also can use Ctrl S, which is basically the pro version of you. So from now, start practicing to use Control S instead of coming here and pressing it. So whenever I make any changes, I won't mention it further, but whenever I make any changes, know that I am pressing Control S consistently after any difference I make in the page. So this is what we get, as you see, with the h1 tag. I also can include something here. But the question that comes to mind is that why h1? Do we have like h2 or something? Yes, we do. We have 6 types of headings, basically. The first one is heading 1, which is h1. I'll tell you the difference in a couple minutes later, just wait for it. We also have h2, heading 2. They are 6. So we have heading 3. We have heading 4. We have heading 5. And eventually we have, heading 6. So, as you see, they are different from each other. And the difference that you can recognize right now is their size, right? So h1 is the biggest one, h2 smaller, 3 smaller, 4 smaller, 5 smaller, and h6 is the smallest one. So is it just it? Actually not. Actually, it even is not it at all, This is not the difference, because I know that you're not familiar with it, but further you'll learn CSS, and in CSS you will understand that it is easy, the easiest thing in the world, to make an h6 bigger than an h1, or make h1 smaller than an h6. So the size doesn't matter here. What matters most is the importance of them. So whenever we are reading an article or looking at the newspapers, you will recognize these h1s, h2s, h3s in those books, in those articles, in those booklets that you study. There always are these difference in levels of headings due to their importance. And there are a couple very important notes to be mentioned and to be known. The first one that I want you to learn right now, right here, is that h1 is only 1 in the page. What do I mean by that? It doesn't show you an error or something if you have 2 h1s in a page. So for example, I add another h1 and say this is my second h1. And as you see, there's no problem with it. It's still working. But when it comes to search engine optimization, which is a very, very important thing, and when it comes to real world projects, again, h1s in a single page can only be 1, 1, and 1. We cannot exclude h1 from our page professionally. We cannot exclude h1 from our page, and we must not use more than 1 h1s in a page. So h1 has to exist, and h1 is only 1, which is the main title, the main subject of our page, and it is about what this page is about. So this was h1. Then we can have unlimited h2s, unlimited h3s, 4s, 5s, 6s, and we can exclude many of them. Like we can only have 1 h1 and that's perfectly fine. We can have a couple of H2s and no H3, 4, 5, 6s if not needed, you know? There's no problem. The only important thing to keep in mind is that H1 has to exist and has to be one only. After headings, we have paragraphs, which we include with the tag P. So as you see, I type lorem, for example, and press enter. This VS Code will generate me a test text by itself. So if I reload it over here, as you see, this is how a paragraph looks like. We can have unlimited text in it, and we can have many of these paragraph tags inside our web page. So as you see, this is exactly the way that they will look like. Inside paragraph, there are a couple text formatting tags that we can use in order to specify the importance to different parts of our text, of our paragraph. One of them is bolding a specific part. So for example, I want to bold this dollar or whatever it is. However, it's red. I don't know, you know. I think it's in Spanish or something. So in order to do that, we have a formatting tag called B, which is about making things bold. So I bring this word, whatever it is, inside this B tag, and as you see, it will be bold. You see, it has a difference with the rest of the text. We also have strong. So what strong does is basically exactly the same as bold. I mean B, you know. So these two tags are both formatting tags and are both about bolding a part of our text. And this is the effect they have, as you see. We also can make a part of our text italic. How we do that is by using the tag I. And as you see here, it will make the part that we specified italic. There's also another tag for doing the same thing, which is EM. And as you see, EM does exactly the same as the I tag does. So these four are formatting tags. We also have other forms of formatting tags, which are, for example, mark. What mark does is highlighting a part of our text due to its importance or whatever. We can have the U tag, which is basically about underlining a specific part of the text. We have the small tag. These are all for formatting. We have the small tag, which makes a specific part of our text smaller. As you see, the error got smaller. We have, let me include two parentheses here to showcase the change better. Yes. We have the del text, which will make a text deleted or something. As you see, it will draw a line over the text, word, sentence, or anything like that we include inside it. We also have ins, which will make our text an inserted text. So this basically functions just like the underline tag does, you know? So it underlines a text to highlight its importance. We also have superscript and subscript. So as you see, we can access them by SUB and SUP tags. And as you see, a subscript text is like this, and a superscripted text is like this. So it will go and stay upper or lower than the actual lines that we have in order to showcase something. For example, an abbreviation, or a mathematical equation or anything like that, that would require some kind of work or formatting. We also can include lists in our HTML pages. So we basically do have two kinds of lists. If you have been through our Microsoft Word course or anything like that, you're familiar with them. We have numbered lists, which in HTML are OL and LI. And we have bullet lists, which in HTML are UL and LI. So as you see, I can use the OL to introduce that I am starting and finishing a list, a numbered list, and LIs are the items to my list. So I can say item 1, item 2, item 3, item 4, and as you see, I will have a numbered list included in my web page. I also can use a bullet one, so I can pretty much copy all these by Control C and Control V here. So as you see, I'm having the bullet list of mine placed like this, as easy as that. So these are lists in HTML. We also have the tag block quote, which is about any kind of quotation we're making from a specific person or something. And as you see, in terms of formatting, it makes our text stand a little bit further than our actual paragraphs and stuff. And as you see, this also can be included as a formatting tag. While we're still in texts, another tag that is used very often is BR. So let me show you something. For example, I want to make a huge white space between these two paragraphs of mine. So I press enter, and as you see, I have a lot of white space over here. So I save, and when I come here and reload, as you see, no changes are made. This is because in HTML, the space between quotes doesn't matter at all. So in order to show the line break or a white space or something like that, you need to use its own tag. You know what I'm saying? So the tag we have for line breaks is BR. I can write it multiple times, and as you see, the BR tag is the kind that does not require and does not have an end tag, an ending. So this is single and isolated. So as I reload, as you see, I have exactly what I wanted. This is BR. We also have HR, which is more about creating a line that separates different parts of our web page from each other. HR is important as well, and works just like BR does in terms of formatting and style and things like that.